Hello there, this is James the Squirrel from the year 1978, and having left off with the unforgivable insult that was the cash-in retcon of Halloween 5 in the previous video in this series, linked down as the underbar, we now move on to an unmitigated train wreck. Because while most of the blame for the fact that the theatrical release of Halloween 6 was an incoherent mess that was edited with a slap chop is placed upon A, the death of Donald Pleasance, destroying any and all hopes for a direct sequel, and meaning that the ending had to be reshot, and B, the fact that the movie didn't test well with 14-year-old boys because there wasn't enough violence and gore, meaning that, for example, the scene in which Jamie was stabbed and left for dead in a barn was reshot so that Michael impaled her on a vicious-looking piece of farm equipment and then turned it on, not only killing her as brutally as possible, but also killing the entire subplot in which she was supposed to be executed by the mysterious man in black in the hospital. The reality is that the film was ultimately doomed before the script had even been greenlit because of the war behind the scenes over whether it should be another bog-standard slasher movie or a supernatural conspiracy thriller explaining the origin of Michael Myers, the original tagline of the film, complete with an ancient mystical cult and blah blah fucking blah. And most importantly of all, a gigantic, blazing neon sequel hook, because more sequels mean more profit, and that's literally the only reason why any more Halloween movies were being made. So while there is a producer's cut of Halloween 6, which, as this blatant rip-off of the Nostalgia Critic points out in the video links down in the underbar,
there is still much to criticize about this film, other than it being a slasher film. But unlike the theatrical version, this one has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end, it has character development, plot consistency, it's got editing, mood, atmosphere, suspense. It has better character arcs and, resolutions. But just take all that shit out and vomit it up into theaters. Good job, idiots! Oh, it's nice that both versions are dedicated to Donald Pleasance. They loved him so much they cut out most of his scenes and called him boring. The original screenwriter had plenty of negative things to say about both versions of the film, but even he admits that the producer's cut is a better product, and even completely negative reviews of the producer's cut also admit that this one is at least a movie.
Ultimately, as I say, the entire project was doomed from the beginning, because by this point Halloween had long since ceased to be a movie franchise at all, and instead had become a brand name to be milked for coin. With the war behind the scenes not being over anything as worthless and petty as creative vision, but over the short-term profitability of pleasing 14-year-old boys versus the medium-term profitability of laying the groundwork for another godforsaken sequel. So in the end, the bitter irony is that the people who wanted to gouge yet more short-term profit by making another mindless slasher movie did win a Pyrrhic victory simply because Donald Pleasance had passed on. But then, 3 years later, on the 20th anniversary of the original movie, Jamie Lee Curtis must have been in debt or something because they finally managed to drag her back for H2O. Halloween 20? Get it? Another shameless cash-in in the most derogatory sense of the term, which made itself utterly redundant by endlessly calling back to the original films at every opportunity, and in which the only real point of note, except for the eye-rollingly heavy-handed foreshadowing during the classroom discussion about Frankenstein, is that the black security guard, an aspiring writer who is shot repeatedly under heightened circumstances, doesn't actually die, because apparently there's a running joke that the actor who played him is the only black man to never die in any movie in which he is cast, with the possible exception of Rollerball. And 4 years after that, in 2002, Halloween Resurrection was a bait and switch that was even more insulting than Halloween 3 and 5 combined, because while Halloween 3 didn't even pretend to be an actual Halloween movie beyond the title, in Resurrection there is a short standalone film at the beginning with the most ridiculous, absurd and insulting retcon in the entire history of the franchise. Yes, even more insulting than claiming that Jamie only injured her foster mother at the the end of Halloween 4, a short film which apparently exists for the sole reason that Jamie Lee Curtis was apparently contractually obligated to appear in one more movie, but demanded that this be her final appearance as Laurie Strode. Great job there. And in which, therefore, Michael finally, apparently, kills Laurie in a mental hospital, and then after her presumed death, following what I assume was her minimum contractually obligated screen time, the film cuts to a much more modern post-Scream style slasher movie, totally unconnected to what came before it, with a really obvious and cliched after-school special style message or moral in the vein of Unfriended, don't harass and abuse people to the point of suicide over the internet, you scum, or Happy Death Day. Being a sorority stereotype makes you a bad, bitter, hateful and miserable person, and you'll find true love with an average #nice guy, so give him a chance. In this case, the message being that although reality TV seems like a quick and easy path to fame and fortune, it simply isn't worth the price, with a Scooby gang of teenagers signing up for a reality TV show and agreeing to spend the night in the old Myers house, which the producers have filled with manufactured and over-the-top evidence of Michael's childhood abuse and trauma, because what's that? Reality TV is mostly fake? Behold, the scales have fallen from our eyes, and the light of truth has been revealed unto the world through your insightful subtext, you tossers! But then it turns out that Michael has been living in the tunnels under the house, perhaps ever since he first escaped back in 1978, and so now, believing that anyone in his house is a part of his family, he's going to butcher them all. Seriously, if you remove the iconic mask and blue overalls, set the film in a different place, change the name of the Myers house to, say, the Jenkins house, and edit the script so that the reality TV show is being broadcast from the home where 30 years earlier, the, let's say, 12-year-old David Jenkins murdered his entire family and then disappeared, then absolutely nothing would have been lost. Because in the end, this wasn't a Halloween movie at all, but merely a post-Scream slasher movie with a Michael Myers cameo, with Michael Myers himself being, by this point in the franchise, merely a mascot, no different from Mickey Mouse, a one-dimensional entity which, although it had once been a character, now existing solely for the purpose of drawing in more customers through brand recognition alone. But then, just when you thought that the franchise couldn't possibly fall any further, in 2007 and 2009, Rob Zombie inflicted his quote-unquote remakes upon the world.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Okay, I'll save panning those atrocities for the next video in this series. Jeez!